Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Good Friday. It is an awesome day to discuss Auburn football on Tiger Takes. What's up, Allie? How are you, girlfriend?
I cannot believe it's October 1st. Like, where has time gone? When we started Tiger Takes, it was like June, and
Yes.
October seems so far away, and now we're here. It's the
We were
best
like,
3-month
when it
stretch of the year.
started, we were talking about what are we going to talk about to like get us to football season and then how we're going to handle football season. But silly us, we should have known Auburn would always give us something to talk about.
Plenty to talk about. And happen in a snap, right? Like we were riding a high, and then Penn State came like a bulldozer, and then whatever you want to call this past weekend came and went for Auburn, and now we're heading into Baton Rouge for a 9 p.m. voodoo kickoff.
We struggled with the state schools. We struggled in the first half with Alabama State, Penn State, Georgia State. We're about to go face Louisiana State.
Okay. Are you trying to add more to this Bayou voodoo curse that's happening? Because you're really not making the mix for the witches brew.
Okay, look, all I'm saying is, like, I think Auburn needs to go watch Ted Lasso, and I could pick out some episodes for them to watch, and really, like, they've got to shake this curse, and they need some Ted Lasso inspiration to do it. So
yeah,
I'm excited about LSU week. What are you feeling? I mean, it's tomorrow. We could say less than 24 hours, but I feel like it's going to be 3 days to get us to 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. for you.
It is a marathon, not a sprint. Me and you did debate going down, but we just couldn't handle a 9 p.m. kickoff in Baton Rouge. That just sounds like disaster for everyone involved.
I do have a 3-day weekend, so it kind of like, I mean, we still could go.
We still could. I mean, I never say never with Lyndon and Allie. You never know where they might show up on any given weekend. But it's been a really interesting week for Auburn. Its fan base, obviously the coaching staff, obviously the players on the team. And so it's kind of like a weird vibe going into LSU, right? Like, there's so much conversation about Auburn that we're forgetting that LSU is a very not good football team, and Coach O may need this win, or there's going to be a hot seat going on. And that's a lot at stake for a very proud LSU fan base that won the title 2 years ago. So it's very odd. Of course, you expect nothing less for this game, but it's going to be interesting. Thanks for joining us. We've got a lot of comments rolling in. We'll be sure to talk about the LSU game later on in the show. But yeah, we're obviously going to hit on the Georgia State game. We're going to hit on QB debates. We're going to hit on coaching changes, LSU. But first, before we kick off, I just want to throw this out there that I work at my new job. I work with a lot of Canadians. So sweet. I'm the chaotic Southern American girl that really came in and shook things up. But they are fascinated at, one, how much Auburn gear I own, and two, that like every Friday, my mood is really just like anxiety ridden, and I'm talkative and chatty, and they're just like, oh, we know it's Auburn's playing. Who are they playing? You know, Allie's chatty Kathy this morning, and I'm always decked out in orange and blue, and usually have my cup. I have a blanket for my work for home setting, and they are just fascinated. So I'm representing for the Canadians. They would love to come to an Auburn football game. So I'm going to try to get a team outing down here. But I just thought it was just, they were like, we always hear about Southern folks and their football, and we just never hear about it, but you're a living proof. So it's pretty crazy how that stereotype goes across the border, and they know about it. They just think we're like fairies, that we like don't really exist, that it's all just a stereotype. And here we are on Tiger Takes, and all of you guys watching proving the stereotype right. So
well, I hope they didn't tune in last week for their first Auburn football game. I hope they just, hold off a little bit. That's really cool. I love that for you. Yeah. It was always fun, like I still act like I'm in Florida sometimes. And when I see an Auburn fan, I get super, super excited because, it was not as common as Florida State or FSU down there. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I'm back in Alabama. Like, everyone's an Auburn fan. But I still am like, oh, my gosh, War Eagle. And they're like, you're in Birmingham. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, yeah.
This is a weird thing.
But it is fun, like, meeting new people and getting to share our love for Auburn. Like, we get to share it with you guys every week. So, Al, I have to ask, where were you watching the Georgia State game? I think you're at like a brewery. You were having fun,
Yeah.
it seems.
Yeah, we were watching it at Sweetwater Brewery. I took a break from the bucket shop for the time being. And, I woke up Saturday expecting it to just be perfect weather. I had a cute outfit on, and I was expecting a W, and I was getting ready to celebrate. And boy, oh boy, was I wrong, because I almost couldn't believe it. I was watching this game, and I was with a bunch of Auburn fans, guys and girls I went to college with. We've been around for a decade watching Auburn football together. And we just were looking at each other like, there's no way this is happening, right? Like, there is no way we are going into halftime down against Georgia State. And not just down and out like 1 or 2 points. I mean, we're talking, we look like the JV team going up against like the state championship varsity team at the high school. It was so bad and just so lackluster that I really almost couldn't believe it. So it was a tough game. Obviously, a lot of people have a lot to say about it. And it was disappointing. I'm not going to lie. I think you always have your hangover games coming after a tough loss. Penn State was a tough loss, man, oh man. If you still go back and watch State, there were so many missed opportunities to get that win on the road. But I think it was a hangover team. But one of my favorite quotes that I saw on Twitter this week was, good teams don't have hangover games. That's why Alabama always wins, right? You can't afford to have games like that because they are lucky that they squeaked by with that win. They're lucky that final drive that we'll definitely talk about later on in the show happened, because they would have walked away as a 2-2 team heading into LSU with a loss against Georgia State. And that is not good for the program and the first-year head coach. What do you think?
I mean, I was there. Obviously, I work pretty much every Auburn game except for Auburn, Georgia. Gonna be there, with Allie. But I mean, it's such an interesting dynamic in being in the stadium, and I don't know what people saw at home, but the atmosphere, like, and we're gonna get to the quarterback debate later, and I think everything kind of centers around that, and like everything, it just was awful. Like, there was no energy. It was just like you're letting number 26 for Georgia State run all over you. Georgia State, I mean, they said that they were going to come into Jordan Hare and they were not going to be intimidated. They had a statement win over Tennessee a couple years ago, gave them some clout and some little umps and little national recognition. I mean, I know here in the South, like, we know what Georgia State is. Like, we know it's in Atlanta, whatever. But I just think it was one of those things, and you can ask people. I was next in the sidelines. We just kept looking at each other like, at first we're like, oh, Auburn's going to pull it out. Auburn's going to pull it out. And, because they always, do. Auburn Jesus, saves the day. But towards the end there, like, truly, like, I mean, until 6 points went on the board on that last drive, I was like, we're losing this game. Yep. Like, it was just, you didn't even feel hope.
Yeah, which is wild, right? Like, especially after the first 2 games when, you might say Georgia State's better than Akron, better than Alabama State to an extent. But man, oh man, I mean, we were steamrolling. And you can pinpoint, people want to put blame on this position group. Sure, yes, it starts up at the line of scrimmage. Absolutely inexcusable for that defensive line to get whipped by that offensive line at Georgia State. I mean, that first half, I don't even think they came close to touching the quarterback. And credit to Georgia State. I want people to know this. Credit to Georgia State. They played a hell of a game. And I think Harsen even said, they deserve to win, right? Like, they played from the time that, game started to the time it ended hard. And Auburn can't say the same. So, and I think, people want to point at the offensive line. Yeah, they had a bad game, but they had played great against Penn State, right? And I think this offensive line needs momentum. And I think when the defense sets that for Auburn. I still believe that. And when the defense was just getting steamrolled left and right, that put a lot of pressure on the offensive line. And I don't think that's where they thrive. And you could say that's a bad thing. You could say whatever you want, but it's facts and it is what it is. So this offensive line is not going to perform.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at, I know it's Jacoby McClain got, defensive player of the game, which deserved. And you want to talk about, like, Owen was out, captain, everything. But McClain, like, I don't know what he told the team at halftime, but with his presence, like that just showed his leadership on that field and the pool he has, because they got it together. Like Georgia State did not score in the second half. And that leads when you, as a coach, and you talk about the quarterback change, because I do know, like, my dad left at halftime. That was his plan all along. Even though it wasn't a good game, he still left and went back to the tailgate. And so I know people that he was watching it with, like, they were upset when, not my father, I'm not gonna say this to him, but like people were upset when Bo Nix got pulled, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But like, as if you're Harsen as a coach, looking at everything as a whole, second half, okay, defense, they're getting it together, and the offense still wasn't.
Still isn't.
So like, you don't need to make a change on defense at that point. Like, you have to make the change on offense, because like he said, nothing was working. And as a former quarterback himself, you know, he can see that. Yeah. Oh my God.
Love this comment coming
up. Talk about, like, there's so much, we'll get this in the quarterback debate, but like, Auburn fans,
there's just so much
y'all
going
are
on.
Psycho. Like, y'all are,
y'all, who you about y'all? I can show some screenshots of some texts from you this week that would put you in the psycho Auburn category.
Like, it's so funny. Like, it's just like, it's
almost
hilarious.
Comical. Like, it's almost comical. Like, it really is.
Like, the most entertaining fan base. Like, I know LSU fans have that rep, but no, like, we're giving them a run for their money, because like comments like this, like, Twitter is insane. And you know what I must say, when you're down 12 points to Georgia State, it's nice to go on the good old social media and just find some comic relief with people.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So the game was a disaster. We can all agree it was a disaster. And
ended up
the game, what happened? Coaching change. So we're going to briefly touch about that before the meat of Tiger Takes, which will be Bo Nix versus TJ Finley in Baton Rouge debate. And once again, Auburn fan base, it's not, we're not all on the same team. Everyone does not agree with the coaching change. Former players do not agree with firing Coach Williams. Allie, what is your take on this? And, why do you think Harsen had to make the decision 4 games into the season to make a change on the offensive side of the ball, being the wide receivers coach?
Yeah. Harsen made a lot of big boy decisions this week that I think is rocking this fan base more, because they've just never seen it, or they haven't seen it in quite a while. Right. Yeah. I mean, firing a coach 4 games in, I learned who Tony Franklin was this week. He had a lot to say. Clearly, when you get fired midseason, you have a lot of understanding. So maybe that's why he took Cornelius Williams' side so heavy on his podcast of 5 people. But I think Harsen wanted to make a statement, and you could say the Boise boys are coming in. You could say he wanted his staff in there, but I mean, he gave a young coach a shot. And we said on the very first episode of Tiger Takes, the position we were most worried about was wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And I have seen 0 improvement from what we heard in spring to what we saw in summer to what we saw 4 games into the season, right? Mm-hmm. It is not, except we said, please God, don't let there be drop passes. There should not be one. And if you are, you're benched in this game. Opening drive, I think there was like 2 or 3. And you could say, yeah, they're not great passes, but you have to make the catch. That is your job. Not every ball is going to be a perfect spiral with no coverage, right? And your job is to make the catch. And they have not gotten it done. Where is Demetrius Robinson? God only knows. On that last drive, which we'll talk about, you saw some rallying. So I think Harsen wanted to make a statement. He got a former coach from Boise State, Eric Key, something. We'll find out this week. Coach Keys. And a lot of the statement Harsen has always been is foundation. And if you can't play, you're not going to play. And you can't bench an entire wide receiver team position because they don't have any backup. And that leads back to recruiting. I think a lot of this people point to, well, this isn't, that wasn't Williams' players. He only had, I get that, but it's still, when you're missing routes or you're having too many men on the field or your wide receivers don't even know what the play call is, you're learning that week in, week out, whether you are a recruit of Williams or not. And unfortunately, you don't fire a player, you fire a coach. So I think it was a bold move. It might not pay off, right? Williams had a lot of SEC recruiting talent. He had a lot of good recruits in the pipeline, and that could backfire. Having another guy on staff that has no SEC ties, but Harsen's willing to gamble. And I think that Auburn fans are very nervous on a gamble because a coach has never gambled. He's never taken a shot. He's never benched a player when needed to be benched. He's never fired a coach who needed to be fired. And you're not going to fire Derek Mason and Mike Bobo. You're not going to fire your offensive and defensive coordinator. So when people are saying, oh, there's so many other coaches that could have been fired, that's literally the most insane take I've ever heard. Yeah, let's fire Derek Mason, a former head coach, one of the most respectable coaches in the entire country. Fire him. Dunzo. When the defense had a great second half, he made the adjustments needed for his team. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, like you said, people are going to have their takes. I think it was a bold move. What do you think? Do you think it pays off? Do you think it was the wrong call?
I mean, I think we'll never know because we're not in the locker room, but I think it's like you said. I mean, you look at, and we had hope, I would say. I mean, I think I even bragged in the receivers after the Akron game. Yes, it was Akron, but we were seeing Bo throw it downfield for the first time, literally in his career, and we were seeing some catch balls. But there were also a lot of drops. And in the Alabama State, there were so many drops. I think I don't even know, we counted them, I think 5 or 6. And then you go and it just wasn't clicking. And then you can almost say they've digressed as the season has gone on. And you think that, I think the thing you said is you take a chance. Like Harsen did bring in a lot of his people, obviously, but he also took a chance on people getting some in-state recruiting with Coach Williams and bringing familiarity to the program. And he wished him the best. And I think it just came down to something was not working out and people are not going to agree, but you have to respect the fact that he's taken ownership of this program, good, bad, or ugly. And the buck is going to stop, with him. And he's going to make sure that he does everything that he thinks is correct to bring Auburn success. And he is clawing his way from the bottom ever since day one on Christmas Eve when he was hired. And people were like, huh? So he's going to come in here. He wants to make a splash, make statements. And I think that's what he's doing. And we'll see. I mean, I will be very interested to see how it does affect recruiting. And I know that's your wheelhouse and it matters so much in every sport. You're talking to high school kids who believe every word you say and they make relationships, these position coaches. So I know a lot of people did like Coach Williams in that aspect. So it'll be interesting to see how it works. I don't know much about Coach Kisu, but we'll see. Starts at LSU. Let's go.
Yeah. And I think this is a good comment. A lot of people were saying, again, we mentioned there is not one person on the team outside of a couple transfers or last minute things that are these staff's players, right? The team's bought in. They're giving Harsen everything they've got, to give it a shot, but these aren't their players. And I understand that and I respect that. But there was another comment that came up, Mason said there wasn't no adjustments. I get that, but his team just played better. Well, that's a coaching thing, right? That's still Derek Mason saying, if you don't play better, you're out. Or if you don't follow what I'm scheming, you're out. That didn't happen with the wide receivers. So it's either, there's no way that these wide receivers are worse than an FCS Georgia State team. They're just not. And sometimes you need a coach who has experience that can bring that out of players. So I think we can put that to bed. Harsen made what he did what he needed to do. Just my opinion. If Nick Saban fires a coach 4 games in, I don't think he gets the same backlash. I think we can say that a lot about a lot of things. Saban said yesterday about a media, I don't think this was a fake quote, but don't talk about football if you've never played, talking to the media. If Harsen said that, it would be an absolute massive explosion of how dare Harsen minimize folks who have never played the game, right? So I think Saban and Harsen are very two different statuses in the state of Alabama in the college football world. Harsen is nowhere near the Saban, passes that he gets for things that happen. First year head coach, a lot of eyes are on him. A lot of people didn't know the hire, didn't like the hire about Harsen, and they're going to hold him to a different standard that I think Nick Saban has earned by giving Alabama too many titles, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think it's the same thing. Like Saban, it's Nick Saban. He, to probably 90% of America, is college football Jesus, God, and he almost, like, they think that it's, endearing when he says those types of comments, and they love it.
Yeah.
They love it. They love pushing out Nick Saban quotes and stuff like that. And I mean, frankly, I like when Nick Saban gets candid like that. Like, I'm guilty too. I think it's because it's just he's on that level of it's just Saban, and I think Harsen is, but it's like, you're familiar with Saban, you're not familiar with Harsen, bottom line.
And I think, I'll get crucified for this, but I think Harsen has a little Saban in him that maybe Auburn fans haven't experienced. He's going to say what he says, and make no mistake that what he says is what he wants you to know. And I think Saban does the very same thing. He's not going to say something that he doesn't want you to know. And I think Harsen is the very same way. He's very clear. There is no confusion that what he is saying is what needs to be out there. So I think Auburn fans just have a lot of adjustment. He's making no excuses. Harsen is. And if this ship goes down, he's going down with it. And I think that's something you can respect as a first-year head coach coming in and really making waves.
Let's talk about making waves. Let's talk about the Bo Nix benching and who we think is going to start at LSU. And it's going to be it's always fun to debate quarterbacks. This one is different because you were sitting down when Harsen benched Bo. He was benching a name, a legacy. Bo even said, that's never happened to me before. I don't know how I feel. I just know I got to go back to work. And then you have TJ, and this is the debate we'll get into and this is something that I don't think people saw on TV. Maybe you did, but you have TJ who came in and won over the fans, at least the student section, but I truly feel won over that team on that final drive. And that's what you have to look at. And I think that's what Harsen is really looking at this week when they're both exchanging reps, is like, who has the team's attention? Yeah. Who are they going to fight tooth and nail for? Who are the receivers going to, who are the O-line going to make sure no one touches their guy? It is weird. It is very, very strange. Yeah. So my take really quick on the game, and this is straight up observation. In the second quarter, if every time we kicked a field goal, even though obviously it was the right decision some of those times, you had boos. I think I counted 6 different boos when the offense went off the field. Yeah. Or did not convert or had to punt. And then in the second quarter, before halftime, half the stand started chanting, "We want TJ." And this is wild. It is so, I've never heard that before. Even back to the Barrett Trotter days. Just, you're looking up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's awkward. It was awkward. It was weird. And then obviously in the third quarter, I think that's when all the media in the press box started catching on, because where I stand is right in front of the student sections. I hear everything. But it got so loud after halftime that you saw the beat writers in the press box start tweeting about it, how they are all chanting, "We want TJ." And before I even knew he came on the field for that first drive in the third quarter, I start to, you shoot cutaway shots in TV. So finally the sideline's jumping around. Nothing's happened. There's no music playing. But I'm like, oh, let me just start filming. Wonder why they're jumping around. It was, nice. And then I look, oh, TJ's on the field. And they were just going crazy. And I think we saw it. And you can say it was because of TJ. You could say it was because they finally were like, oh my God, time is running out and we're going to lose. We must get it together. But I just saw on Saturday a team that rallied behind the backup and made sure, they were going to give it their all every single play. And obviously there were still mishaps, and we can talk about that. But on that final drive, I saw every player on that field. They were like, we're not going to let this happen. What did you see?
Yeah, I don't think it's like even sunk in that Harsen benched Bo Nix. I mean, it almost like when you say it out loud, it like doesn't even seem real. But I think it was the right move. After obviously a 3-and-out drive, I tweeted out like I think it's time to see Finley, and we saw Finley in the next play. So that's my coaching minor from Auburn University coming through. But it's a big deal to bench a 3-year starting quarterback that is literally born an Auburn quarterback. There was no other place that Bo Nix was playing but Auburn University. And a lot of people have said he should have been benched last year. Didn't happen. We never saw it once. Didn't see it. Didn't even have the option. It wasn't I didn't even guess it. Like, that's not even in the realm of the world ever happening of benching Bo Nix.
I mean, look at Malik Willis now balling out for Liberty. Like,
exactly.
It was like he didn't even have a chance. Like, Bo came in, it was his.
Yeah, and I hate it for Bo. I've been a very big Bo supporter, just personally and as a player. I think he's an incredible representation of Auburn. I think he's had a very hard go of it, and I think, as we've talked about this, as a 3-year starter, you need to be better. And that's just the name of the game. And we saw Saban bench Hurts in a national championship, and it paid off, right? Like, these things happen when coaches are willing to say, you know what? It's time to give another kid a shot because he's earned it. And I think the reports that have come out that TJ has come in since he transferred from LSU, what a story that I'm sure we'll get into, that he came in and was ready to take the position, game in, game out, practice game in, game out, right? He was ready for when his name was called at all times. And I think after a while, at the quarterback position, it kind of happened with Sean White too. Like, you can say, I have no doubt that this team loves Bo Nix for what he's done for this team, right? Like, I have no doubt that all of these players have nothing but great things to say for Bo Nix, but they have eyes. They see a quick scramble or, not finding a very open receiver and trying to sneak it into a pocket. They see that. And after a while, it gets old. And that's just, as a fan, it gets old. And I can't imagine as a player, it gets old too, especially when you have a kid like Finley who has the mechanics to be very, very good and is 6'7" and can stand and get a first down, right? Like, that doesn't go unnoticed. Fall over and you got a first down. So I think that you saw a very different team when TJ Finley came out there, and I hate it for Bo. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that you didn't see the difference, I don't know what to tell you. And if the excuse was that they thought they were going to lose, that's a big, big yikes, because, buddy, you were down at halftime. That was blasted all over social media, all over ESPN, that you were about to lose to Georgia State. And if it needed a quarter to wake up, that's a problem on a team level.
And going back to that, and like, did TJ play perfect? No. And at first, when he first got in the game, you have people saying, well, same problems, looks the same to me. But you have to think about, and I feel like that's why sports psychology to me is so fascinating, because like, we just look at them as, entertainment players, whatever. Like, no, there's like a huge mental aspect. TJ was probably freaking out. Like, he's going to say, yeah, of course he was like ready, but like, you're losing to Georgia State and your coach is like, all right, Buster, it's you.
It was an impossible situation to walk into.
Exactly. Like, think about it. If he did not convert on that fourth down, like, oh my gosh, like,
if he loses the game, you will never see Finley again. The fans would be like, never see Finley again. Put Bo back. Finley. It was an impossible situation.
Awful situation. And he did it. And he like, as the game went on, he got more comfortable. And the thing is, guy, like, we can say it all day. The players fought for him.
Yeah.
They fought for him. And I loved his post-game interview as like a reporter. He loved when they get candid, and he just was so respectful of Bo in the post-game interview. And and I think that, we'll never know. And I can't imagine the anxiety of being in a quarterback room. I honestly cannot imagine the anxiety Bo has to feel or
I'm
whatever.
sweating just thinking
No,
about it.
it's like, stresses me out. But like, like he was so respectful, which makes me feel like, they're, even though Auburn looks so disheveled, there, and there is some just mutual
Yeah.
respect for whatever happens. And the thing I love when asked questions, and I don't even think it was about his mess ups, but he was like, "Yeah, when I overthrew blank, like that was bad, and don't worry, I'm gonna fix it tomorrow." Like he was just like on it, and he was so just like a leader, and and he's so young, and it's like, man, and you can just say what you want, and this is just opinions, and everyone's gonna have them. Who you think Bo or TJ should start? But if from what I saw on the sidelines, in post game, and on the field, just how much everyone was just rooting for TJ, I think, how can you not build off that momentum? We scored,
I'm
or
with you
Auburn
there,
scored
sister.
with less than 40 seconds, like 44 seconds on the clock, the last minute
Yeah.
of the game. How can you not carry that
Yeah.
into the next game?
Look, I will go down. Sure, we'll never know. But if Bo Nix stays in that game, Auburn loses. And I fully believe that. And that's just a hard truth that I think a lot of people have to swallow. And, Harsen, when the roster came out, Bo was still listed, but now we're hearing that they've both taken first team snaps. And I'm a big believer in riding momentum. I think that's why the 2013 season rolled out. I think that's why 2017 rolled out, is Jarrettson was just so hot that they rode that momentum wave even after a loss. You know what I mean? And do I think TJ is inexperienced? Yes. Do I think that going into a 9 p.m., 8 p.m. Central Death Valley at night with a very desperate LSU team is dangerous? Absolutely. But this kid is an LSU kid. He was there. He understands what LSU is. And I think that is the difference. And I really hope, selfishly as an Auburn fan, that TJ Finley starts on Saturday. And it is crazy to say. I never thought I'd say it, but I do hope. I really hope. And I think if he starts, Auburn has a hell of a shot to break that curse. And
Yeah.
I think it would kill Bo, because if he goes in and it's another rough half, you don't ever bounce back from that. You don't ever recover from getting benched, coming out and starting like a JV quarterback again and being benched. Like, how does a team recover from that? How does a player recover from that? And putting TJ again in an impossible situation to come in and save the day, right? Like, why not just give it a shot and see what he does? And you can bench Finley right back and put Bo in. At this point, I mean, who cares if that happens? But give the kid a shot to start a game and see what he can do from kickoff, personally.
It's just the awkward tension that you felt with Gus Malzahn, how everyone loved him as a person, but you're like, oh my gosh, it's just same old, and you hate it, and it's awkward, and it makes you feel kind of gross. I felt just so gross on Saturday, just because everyone was so, even in the first half, it's just, and we've seen boos all season, which is like awkward in itself, but it's like, if they hear that, like, and it cannot be good. How can you feel confident when the stands are chanting your backup's name? Like, how can you block out that noise? Like, how can you, and you just get in your head, and it's just so consuming,
Yeah.
And
it would kill me. It would.
Yeah.
If I was in Bo's position, it would destroy me to the core, knowing that this fan base that I gave a lot of myself to is turning my back on them. And that's, a PSA is, look, if Finley starts and the Knicks era is over, I truly hope people can look back and realize what he was able to give in some very tough seasons. That last season of Gus Malzahn in COVID was a tough scenario to come in. Coming in as a freshman with off season, so much hype around you. Like, Bo has been put in a very tough position, but at the end of the day, which I think Harsen is very good at, is what Saban has turned college football into, is a business. It is a business. And when you don't perform, as we all are in the real world, you get fired. And that sucks. You hate to say that's not what this is, but it is. And Bo has not performed enough, in my opinion, to get another start over Finley without even seeing what he can do from the kick. You know, how this is the most Auburn scenario of all time. You bench the legendary Nix name. You put in this kid who transferred from LSU, born and raised, I think, like 15 miles from Death Valley, and he could get his first start and break a 28-year curse for Auburn. Like, it's almost like you can't script that. And that's why Auburn fans are Auburn fans. That's why we have like heart monitors and have like doctors on call. But like, I just think that's fate. I think that's what this whole week was meant to, was to give TJ Finley that shot.
And you know what? So like, Auburn hasn't won LSU since '99. I wish I had like TJ's like birthday, like in front of my face.
93, honey.
I think it's '99. But
maybe it is 99.
But like, he has to be born around that time. I don't know. I'll have to look at it after this. But
yeah, no, I mean, like, I wasn't even born yet. If he's 19,
this is like oh yeah, he wouldn't, because like my brother's a senior. He's 2003.
He wasn't even born.
Yeah.
And you know, we did talk about this last week on Tire Takes. Was, do these players who weren't born when the curse started, who have no, you know, lifeline of pain going into Baton Rouge like Auburn fans do, would they get it? And we've seen quite a few players say, like, we are fully aware. You know, Harsen hasn't been around. He doesn't know what this rivalry means or what this win would mean, but it's clear he does. And it's clear that there are a lot of people in his ear saying you could make a very, very, very big statement benching Nix, starting Finley, and breaking a curse in a 7-day span. That is a hell of a span for a first-year head coach to go through. Like, that's wild. That was like unbelievable. And firing a coach 4 games into a season like that. This could be one of the craziest weeks of Auburn football history.
Oh yeah, like the hits.
And not even just for a first year. It's just one after another, right? Like, I'm almost waiting for another shoe to drop ahead of tomorrow. But I think we can both agree that we expect Finley to start.
Let's see what Wizard Dragon said. Having faith in TJ or Bo is irrelevant. He says, I have faith in the head coach for making the decision that gives us the best chance of winning.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, yeah, I mean, it's Harsen's decision. He sees everything. And that's why, I mean, and Allie, this is one thing that you've said over and over again, even before we were just talking about Bo in general, Harsen has no loyalty to Bo Nix the way Gus Malzahn did. And Harsen has no loyalty to anybody. Like, he's like, I'm going to do the best, what we said. So it'll be super interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't, and that's the thing though. And if you how will you feel as a fan if tomorrow night, 9:00 Eastern, you see Nix take the field? I think a lot of people are going to be like, are you kidding me? And that's not what you want heading into this game. Like, it's just like, it's toxic.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's toxic.
It's
just teetering on edge of like, you could lose this entire fan base very quickly. And if you're not an Auburn rational fan, if you don't think Nick should start because he has experience, well, what more could you want from a kid who was an LSU commit, who was very, like I said, who's very aware of what Death Valley sounds like and is desperate for? Like, TJ,
they Auburn blew out Georgia State. The team's leaning on TJ anyways this week to talk.
Exactly.
Like, he's already a leader. Take out, like, say he never touched the field. This week he already becomes super, super relevant, super, super prominent in team meetings, locker room, whatever. Well, now he still is that, and he got us the victory last week on literally before, like, walking the plank, like, save the day. Like,
and you know what else was something interesting that I found too, you know, before we wrap up, because we beat the horse to death, but Harsen said it was his decision to bench Bo. It wasn't Mike Bobo's. It wasn't the quarterback coaches, whoever that is, probably from Boise State. It was nobody but his. And that is wild for him to, again, if this ship goes down sinking, he is the captain on the boat that is going down like the Titanic. Like, he is taking claim to everything that's happening as his decision. And that is a very bold, can't use certain words on here, but big boy move to have as a head coach in a conference that ain't nobody know who you are. Ain't nobody in this conference been watching Boise State since you've been there. No one knows anything about you other than you tell it like it is, and some people don't like that. And that's crazy. So and we talk about, oh, it's up to Bo Nix and TJ Finley. It ain't. It's up to the wide receivers to not be embarrassed and, prove a point. It's up to this defense to say, holy smokes, what did we do? And it's up to this offensive line to say, you know what? No, we're not going to be a laughingstock again for another season coming off, a pretty solid first 3-4 games. So it's really not up to the quarterback, but it's who are they going to fight for? And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Finley. So I think they end the streak. I really do. No, that's fine. I put on my blue and orange. I think Auburn ends the streak with Finley. I really do. I don't know why. I think they're not going to get a more desperate, off-kilter LSU team than you've seen in the last maybe decade. And I think Harsen knows what needs to be done to make it happen. And I don't know if I lost Linton. I may have lost her while she was getting her dog. But, she's back. There she is.
I'm back. I'm sorry, y'all. It's like dogs know when we've talked too much or something. But I could talk all day.
It's time to wrap it up. It's like the buzzer.
One day I will not live in an apartment, and I will be able to put the dogs in a yard and say,
see you later.
See you later.
Let's go to Tiger Toast. Like I said, we talked 40 minutes, beating a horse to death. You guys know where we stand. I'm going to toast to, this is going to sound so cheesy, and there she goes again, Sunshine Pumper Davison. I'm going to toast TJ Finley. I'm going to toast that photo that mimics Cam where he's standing next to Abby and the whole student section is just freaking out. And there's that photo of Cam who's on the box with the student section with the numbers behind them. Eerily similar. Weird vibes. I got goosebumps again. Cheers to you for being ready and for being humble. And he could have walked in with, cockiness into that post game and said, yeah, I did win. Yeah, I am the best. But no, he gave credit to where credit's due, to what Bo and him fighting for and preparing each other. And cheers to you. And I hope you are the reason why we end the streak tomorrow. What about you, Lynn?
That's good. And to everyone saying, oh, it's just Georgia State after that photo was posted, once again, watch Ted Lasso here because, that's so rude for you to tell a 19-year-old or 20-year-old to, not celebrate that huge – that marquee moment, saving the day. Oh my gosh. Stop.
And also that student section in 2012 when I was freshman, sure as hell wasn't looking like that. So cheers to that. Cheers to that. Because we were a sorry bunch back in 2012. So
they didn't come to the game. And I think a lot of people stayed around in that student section. And I'm not just don't come at me for box seating, the non-box section too, because I think people really want to see TJ Finley play. So Tiger toast to that. Tiger toast to safe travels to Baton Rouge. Everyone, be sure to drink your coffee and just stay peppy because it's going to be a late, long night. And I wonder what the vibe's going to be next week on Tiger Takes because, you just never know.
You never know what's coming for you. But thanks for joining us, guys. Let's hope we're back next week. 4-1. Yeah, 4-1 because there's nothing sounds better than 4-1 for this Auburn team. So cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Bye, y'all. Have a good weekend.